Joining Steve now via Cisco WebEx is Dan Schulman, President and CEO of PayPal.
Greetings, Dan. Are you there?
I am, Steve. Good to hear your voice.
Okay, great. There he is. Everyone, this is my friend Dan Schulman, is the CEO of PayPal. Dan, I'm very, very happy you were able to join us for this World Economy Summit. I know you're coming to town later in the week, but one of the things that I really wanted to get at is the subject of what an economy is for. And I'd like you to share with our audience your concerns about the North Star of what an economy should be designed to achieve and the choices that we're making, in Washington and really for the world right now. But give us your framework as you think about the purpose of an economy.
I think it's a broad question, but my view on this is an economy needs to work for the majority of us, and it's not happening today. I think when I think about the state of capitalism, I think about the state of our citizens. I think a study just came out in the last couple of days where 70% of US citizens are financially stressed. They are challenged making ends meet at the end of the month. And I think an economy needs to assure that there's a modicum of financial health for everybody. I think financial health underlies the strength of our democracy. If you are financially stressed, if you don't believe that your kids will have a better life than you did, if you feel like no matter how hard you're working, you can't make ends meet, you tend to distrust the system in place, and you tend to radicalize, whether that be to the right or to the left. And so I think a healthy economy needs to provide financial health for the vast majority of its citizens. And I think both the public and the private sector have a very big role to play in that.
Dan, one of the last time you and I spoke, we talked a little bit about, the middle class as the backbone of the success, not only of the American economy, but any economy that succeeds. But if you are honest and you look at, the prospects for the middle class, they're pretty bleak. It's a spiral downward. It's a mutually cascading set of pressures. What do you think we can do, the private sector can do, the middle class themselves can do to tweak that equation so that the middle class is buoyed and given a fair chance and opportunity to succeed and continue to be that backbone?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of commentary about multi-stakeholder capitalism. What does that mean? And I know there's a lot of political conversations around it as well. But from my perspective, I think as CEOs of major corporations, we obviously solve or serve multiple constituencies, but I think our number one constituency needs to be our employees. I think we need to assure that we are paying them a fair wage, that they are not financially stressed. And, I did a study on this. I was pretty sure that when I did this study that I was going to find that PayPal employees were doing better than most, because we're a tech company. We pay either at or above market wages. And when I did this study, to my chagrin and to my surprise, I found out that, over 50% of PayPal employees were also struggling to make ends meet at the end of the month. They couldn't pay their bills. As a result, we had very high attrition rates in those segments of our employee population. And what I found when I did the measurement is, even though we were paying, again, at or above market rates, the net disposable income that our employees had, this population of them, which is kind of how much money do they have left over after they pay their essential living expenses and taxes, was only 4 to 6% of their salary, of their total comp. And when we did studies after that with some NGOs and some folks in academia, we found that the minimum that somebody needs, NDI, that somebody needs to feel financially healthy is about 20%. And so, I looked at this really carefully and I thought about kind of where is the greatest return on investment that I can have by investing in our business. Is it in marketing? Is it in R&D? Is it in our employees? And I felt that the number one thing that I could do was assure that all of our employees were financially healthy. That if I had an employee base that felt secure, that was passionate about what we were doing, that is the only sustainable competitive advantage that I have as a business when I compete in the market. And so we raised wages, we lowered the cost of healthcare benefits by about 65%. Again, for our call center employees, our employees that were just beginning with us that had lower salaries. We gave every single person in the company stock. So they were all shareholders in the company. And we wrapped all of that in a financial education program because this is the first time people were able to save, first time they had equity. And we were able to raise the NDI of that from 4 to 6%. Internationally now we're at 34%. And in the US we're at about 18%.
Real,
We saw attrition drop by 65%, engagement scores go up, net promoter scores go up. So I think we as CEOs cannot shirk our responsibility to make sure that our employees have a living wage. We can't count on the market for that, Steve. We have to do that.
Let me ask you real short form, because we're just nearly out of time in our short exchange here, which I regret. PayPal had to lay off, or you laid off a lot of workers, Facebook, Google, a lot of digital companies, staggering numbers. But when I look at the unemployment rates, and we looked at last month's numbers, unemployment still ticked down 0.1%. So I haven't seen those numbers reflected there. And I guess the question is, there's something happening in the former digital go-go space that is fundamentally tectonically different, because when you're laying off workers, somebody else must be picking up those workers in other industries, given the staggering numbers we've seen from some of the digital firms, big brand names out there. Is there something going on?
Well, I think the pace of change in technology right now, I heard a part of what you were talking about with your last speaker, is accelerating dramatically. I think AI is going to affect every part of our organizations going forward. I think the pace of change that happened during COVID was immense. You saw a huge tectonic shift towards all forms of digital, and then people are normalizing now. And so I think as leaders, sometimes we need to make very tough decisions. I think those tough decisions are going to remain with us as I look into the future. It's a very choppy time right now. There is, as your last speaker quite eloquently put it, there are a lot of issues in the world that we're all facing right now. I do think we need to step back and think about what are the things that we can control in this, and how do we make decisions based on that. And one of the ones that I think is so important is that for the workers that we have, that they have a modicum of financial health and can feel like that they can dream about the future. I think if we can do that, we'll have a better economy, but also just a better political system for all of us.
Dan, just real quick, and finally, you and I have some history. I know that one of your passions are really good economic salon dinners. Sorry, guys, we're nerds. We like it. We're proud of it. But I hear you're going to be leaving your post at PayPal by the end of the year, and apply some time to some of your passions. What are your passions? What are you going to go do? And are we going to have salon dinners?
those salon dinners were never one of my passions. But I enjoyed them.
They were mine.
Yeah, no, I know. There are a lot of things that I want to do as I look forward. I'm thinking about how do I give back a lot more. There are certain potential positions in government that I'm considering. There are different boards that I'm looking at. There are a lot of people who I love, who I haven't seen in a long time, that I want to spend more time with as well. So my challenge right now is saying no to all the things that are being thrown at me, and thinking about it holistically. And I still have till the end of the year here at PayPal, so quite focused on that as well.
Well, I would just say in closing, one of the things I've really enjoyed in our conversations is, it's not often when you get in these conversations to talk about the moral and ethical dimensions behind capitalism, which is what I know you've been trying to do. And for our audience, one of the interesting things is you've heard, I'm obsessed with small businesses and entrepreneurship and micro ventures. And you basically, you don't get a loan from most small business companies or banks unless you're, $5 million or more. Dan kind of invented the business for reputational loans and reputational finance. I was at the dinner. It was at a dinner where that kind of came up, Dan. I mean, you may have invented it elsewhere, but that's where I first did it. But, I think that innovation in that space and how to make the middle class have an opportunity has been really important. So thank you so much for that. Thanks for dropping in on us today.
Yeah, you bet, Steve. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Great to see everybody.
All right, take care now. Thank you.
Bye-bye.